So with Pioneer Human Services, as I mentioned, it's helped people throughout the years and continues to support those with criminal histories. And we had the privilege of hearing Daryl's story firsthand. We also have another firsthand account, this time from our next guest, Mr. Michael Langone. Now, he realized his chance for change and made the move from client to case manager in Pioneer's Housing Department over the past 4 years. So at this time, could you please help me welcome to the podium Mr. Michael Langone.
Good evening. My name is Michael Langone, and I'm honored to be here tonight to share my personal story with you all. Although my past does not include prison, it does include several years of battling addiction, homelessness, and being arrested and jailed multiple times. Pioneer played an important role in saving me from going to prison as my life was getting more desperate. I honestly don't know where I would be today without Pioneer's care and staff, support, and services. Currently, I work for Pioneer as a housing program supervisor. I oversee the 3 transitional programs in Tacoma and 2 of the permanent housing programs in Auburn and Seattle for adults with children. I love my work and appreciate the opportunity to share and give back to a population that I will always be connected to. I never feel a distance when I'm working with men and women who are struggling in recovery from addiction or feeling like they have hit rock bottom. I see myself over and over again and feel fortunate to now be in a position to offer assistance to individuals and be able to give them a chance for change. Maybe some of you will be able to relate to my story, or you may know someone who had it all and then lost everything, and you can never figure out what happened in their life. Let me just say that addiction is a disease. When it grabs you, it takes over you just like a cancer. You can want to be clean, but without help and supportive services, all of your best intentions and efforts are wasted time. I grew up outside of Boston in a good family. My parents were active in the community. My father was a very hard worker. After graduating from high school, I entered college at Framingham State College in Framingham, Massachusetts. I played rugby in college and earned a degree in economics. I drank in college, like the majority of the students, but none of my behavior was out of the norm. Neither of my parents had any substance use issues, so there was no warning of things to come. After college, I worked for Raytheon in Massachusetts, but it was not a job I liked, so I took a position at a landscaping company. During high school and college, I had always worked in landscaping jobs, and this sounded like a good opportunity. During this time, I also got married, and life seemed to be rolling along in a positive direction. After working really hard at a landscaping company for a few years, 6 days a week, I was promoted to general manager with good pay and benefits. I was pretty happy, but my wife was on me as she always wanted to move out west. So I started sending out resumes to see what jobs were available. It was her dream to live in California and escape the harsh winters back east. As the months rolled on, I didn't get any great offers from the West Coast, so I continued working at the job I was at. My coworkers in Boston were getting together on the weekends and partying, and people started snorting cocaine, so I tried it. It gave me energy, more self-confidence, and it seemed to be pretty harmless. But soon my weekend dabbling rolled into a little at work to keep me going, and then my recreational use snowballed into constant use. I was in denial about my addiction and was able to mask it pretty well. My wife did not know the extent of my use or the money I was starting to spend on my growing addiction. We had been married for about 8 years by now, and she was pregnant with our first child. My wife delivered a beautiful baby girl in Cambridge, Mass., and now she was very focused on finding a place on the West Coast where we could raise a family. About this time, I received a few responses to the resumes I sent out and was offered 2 jobs, one out west in Seattle and the other in Austin, Texas. We decided to pack up and head to Seattle, and off we moved. I figured a fresh start was all I needed to shake my drug use. After all, addiction wasn't part of my family story. After we moved to Seattle, I got settled into my new job, and we bought a home in Des Moines. I continued to lie to myself that my drug use was under control. But unfortunately, one day when I wanted to get high in Seattle, I was introduced to crack cocaine, which was even more addictive. My life spiraled downward, fast and hard. I started not coming home at night. Addiction was taking over my life, and drugs became more important than my daughter and my wife. My wife now could see my addiction and gave me warnings and eventually locked me out of the house. She did not want me near our baby when I was using. It was the beginning of my rock bottom in a multi-year cycle where I would fight to get clean and then get hired onto a job only to fall again into a habit of drug use, and the cycle downward would get me arrested and land me in jail again. My wife divorced me, and I only saw my daughter when I could get clean and go over to my ex-wife's home, where she was living with her new husband. It killed me to hear my daughter calling my ex-wife's husband daddy. But the fact was, I wasn't available to her or dependable. Every time I got clean, the pain and the guilt of choosing drugs over my daughter would wash over me like a wave of regret, and I would want to numb the pain all over again because I could not face it. The grip of addiction was so tight that I felt I had already lost my life and my family relationships, but I really ached to keep a connection with my daughter. We had a bond, even though my behavior was destroying it as time went on. When I thought things couldn't get lower, they did. After being released from serving one of my jail sentences, one of my friends offered me a place to crash at. It was a generous offer, but he was using meth. Soon I was using meth and ended up homeless, full of shame, and being arrested. When I was released this time, I was beyond desperate to stay clean. A guy at an NA meeting told me about Pioneers Rialto House, a clean and sober transitional housing program in Tacoma. It was my first introduction to Pioneer and to the late Linda Maples, who was the program manager at Tacoma's transitional housing. She gave me a few chances as I continued to struggle with my addiction. When I relapsed, she would exit me from the program, but motivate me to get treatment and help. And when I was clean, she was willing to take me back in and give me another chance. Linda had seen it all and been through more than me. She knew the telltale signs when a resident was using or when an individual needed motivation to stay clean. She urged me to go to NA meetings, counseling, and to go back to school to change my career. I was 46 years old, but she insisted it was never too late. Pioneer's transitional housing program gave me a place to get started after years of living on the street. The opportunity to live in clean and sober housing, along with steady group meetings, kept me on track and was breaking my pattern of addiction. I will always remember the luxury of finally having my own apartment in the Rialto, a clean and sober environment where I could shut my door, focus on my recovery, and feel safe for the first time in a long time. I was now in constant contact with my daughter, and I had disappointed so many times when she was younger. She was 12 years old and gaining trust and confidence in me because I followed through on everything I said to her and was accountable for my actions. I was becoming the real dad that she didn't have before. After months of being sober, I realized I wanted to work with people in recovery and those with criminal histories. Now it was my chance to give back. I enrolled in college again to get my degree in human services. I graduated with a 4.0, and Pioneer offered me an entry-level position in housing in Tacoma. Soon I was promoted to a case manager position in Seattle's transitional housing program, and I moved into the Lobdell, one of Pioneer's permanent housing facilities. Working as a case manager, I could see that I had come full circle and was in the right role where I could now be helping others. When you've been given a second chance like I have, I feel that you have a moral obligation to give back. After a few years as a case manager, I was promoted to the supervisory role I serve in now, working with both transitional and permanent housing programs. It is my turn to help people work through their addiction and trauma to get back on their feet. I focus on supporting and motivating others coming into the housing programs to build a future and never give up. Pioneer never gave up on me. They understand the issues with addiction. After years on the street, it is nearly impossible to get it right the first time. But here I am, clean and sober for 6 years, with the help of supportive services and people that push me to break the cycle of addiction. In the grips of addiction, I would never have thought I would have my life back and be where I am today. I am so fortunate to have a great support system of friends and mentors, both at work and in my personal life, including a supportive fiancé who was instrumental in my life. Their expression of compassion and empathy towards people with criminal histories and those struggling with addiction has set a standard for how I must treat others. The best part of my story is that my daughter never gave up on me either. She got angry and refused to speak with me at times, but I disappointed her so many times in the past, who could blame her? Now that I have been drug-free for several years, it has been so amazing to be a father again. She graduated from high school, top of her class, and asked me to drive her to California to look at colleges, so we did a one-week road trip together. She is now a freshman in the business school at San Diego State University and working. We talk almost every day on the phone. Our bond has grown very strong. I feel so proud to be back in her life, and am eternally grateful to Pioneer for believing in me and giving me a chance to change. In closing, I just wanted to share something she posted on my Facebook page a couple years back. And it reads, 4 years ago, I got my papa back. I am so proud of you and that you have been there every time I needed you. I love you so, so much. Thank you.
Okay, somebody have a tissue? Oh. Papa. Yeah, it's got to be so precious. I mean, so much can be lost in just a blink of an eye, and so much regained with just some perseverance and dedication. So Michael, thank you not only for your story, but for your service and your commitment to do right, because by your actions, look at where your daughter is today. And that's because she saw you fall and get up. My mother always used to tell me, you can't have a miracle without a mess. Otherwise, it's just an everyday occurrence. And through the work that Pioneer Human Services is doing, through the work and the stories that we've heard from Michael and Daryl tonight, we know, we don't have to wonder, miracles are happening. So again, Michael, thank you for your story, and thank you for all that you've done.